Hi there. I'm excited to share this with you. I'll be releasing one chapter of my first book every week until the entire story is complete. You can listen while you're working, driving, or just kicking back in your favorite spot. Some chapters will be short, others a bit longer, but every one of them is free to enjoy. If it's not your thing, that's totally okay, no hard feelings. But if you like it, feel free to tune in each week or even share it with a friend. Can't wait for the next chapter? No problem. Scan the QR code on your screen to purchase the full book on Amazon. Happy listening.
Chapter 15. Surviving the Conference. Jesus Freak rolls into the room and comes to a stop. A quick look around the room reveals that he is encapsulated by the enemy. There are already people in the room on all sides, and now there is a person blocking the door he was forced into. I count 10. No, 12 people. Don't see any weapons, but they could be concealed. Why did he say? This time? Jesus Freak assesses in his mind. Nice try, Ronnie, but you didn't even hear me coming out behind you and you would have been caught before you could scare us anyway, wearing that all-white outfit. It's not the best way to sneak up on someone. Right, fellas? The thug who pushed him questions jokingly. Yeah. Nice try, Ronnie. Thought you were gone with the boss. One of the voices says from the crowd. They all stare at him intensely. He wonders if he should try to fake his way out. Obviously, this Ronnie guy must be a practical joker. He stands there silent, wondering what voice he should try to use to fool them. Maybe he could just make body gestures and get away with it, at least long enough to get out of the room. But wait. What if one of the guys inside is his target? What if one of them is Screamer? Maybe he should try and talk it out with them to see what he can find out. Wait a second. That don't look like Ronnie. He's too tall and a little too big, ain't he? Someone notes. Jesus Freak's heart starts to pound, and his hand moves toward his weapon slowly. Yeah, but it's just like him to send somebody in to fool us so he don't get the blame. Someone rebuts, and a few yeahs echo through the horde. Jesus Freak looks around and sees that the crowd seems to be buying it. An instant calm starts to take over his emotional paradigm. But then who is this guy? And why would Ronnie skip out when Tully told him he had to go? A voice from the right inquires. It is followed by another. Who are you? Once again, the beating in his chest becomes intense. Now they are questioning him, and all eyes are cast in his direction. Perhaps if he just plays it cool and acts like he is someone Ronnie hired, he can get out of this and maybe even find his target. He is just about to speak when... Hey, it's that guy. I'm sure of it. A voice cries out in the back. I know it sounds weird, but I've seen this guy in the town before. He's the guy from the news. The same guy that got Bill. I'm sure it's him. How in the world did he get in here? Better yet, which one of us is he after? He ain't getting me. Let's get him. Someone yells. So quickly things go from good to unrepairable. All hopes of a peaceful end to this encounter seem to disappear like water down the drain of the sink. Everyone in the room tenses up. To Jesus Freak, it looks like the cartoon where everyone in the room is scowling down at one person in the middle of the room. They close in with intimidating demeanors. Their confidence is high because of their numbers. He looks for a way to escape. Is there some window or vent or doorway that is not blocked? If he finds one, can he make it there before getting caught? Maybe he should just fight and get it over with. No. There is only one guy at the door that he just came into. It is easier to fight one than 11 or 12. Move, legs, move. He thinks while trying to turn to run. His legs are locked steady. They won't listen to him. We are gonna beat you to a pulp, jerk. And don't even think about running from all of us. One of them snarls. Suddenly, his mouth opens. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. His voice is still low and gruff, but it is audible to all in the room. For a moment everyone pauses and looks at each other in confusion. What do you mean we? How many people you think you got over there? Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Jesus Freak quotes as he grabs his cross. One bright young man, who is familiar with stories of Jesus Freak, gives out a warning. Watch out! That cross is his weapon. Get him before he can use it. The room is a large square conference room, but it is set up like a small auditorium. Though everyone is standing now, there are chairs set up at the back and on the sides of the room, all organized in a way that allows them to view the front center, which is just to the left of Jesus Freak. There are 2 guys to his right, 3 close to the wall on the left side, and 6 in front of him near the back wall. That of course does not account for the one behind him at the door that he entered. There is another door on the other side of the room. Windows don't exist in this room. It must have been designed for presentations and seminars with a viewing screen. Somehow, he finds himself paying attention to all of them at the same time. Inside, there is some fear, but at the same time, there is this confidence in his spirit. This time is unlike the first time where his body was moving on its own, but his senses are keen. He can even tell what is going on behind him. He raises the cross above his head with 2 hands and proclaims, "If I be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me." He pauses briefly, then mutters, "Now come get some." Before anyone could make a move, he takes the cross into his right hand and snaps it forward at a slight angle. The meteor cross flies into action and wraps itself around the closest thug in front of him. It wraps itself around his right arm, and Jesus Freak gives it a tug. The young man is yanked forward, but loses his footing and falls to the ground, sliding headlong toward Jesus Freak. He comes to a stop well before reaching the hero, but it is good enough. All eyes are on the fallen ruffian for a moment but quickly return to Jesus Freak. A punk from the left side of the room starts to rush in and breaks the paralysis spell that seems to be on everyone else as they stare at their toppled comrade. Jesus Freak snaps his line back while rotating his arm and the meteor cross's head comes spiraling back. Another one of the young men, this time on the right side of the room, charges in as well. Though he started later, his position is closer, so it seems as if they will reach their target at the same time. No doubt, when they reach him and restrain or otherwise incapacitate him, the others will join in. He knows that it is critical for him to make a show with these first 2 attackers. Just as anticipated, they arrive at the same time, but they hesitate to make a direct strike because neither one knows what the other is going to do. The brief hesitation allows Jesus Freak to gain full control of his meteor cross's line. He snaps his right arm down and simultaneously leans out of the way to allow for a punch that flies from the left side toward his head. It narrowly misses. The thug on the right takes his cue and attempts to throw a fist his way as well, but Jesus Freak lifts that right arm back up to block. Suddenly, the thug slams to the floor back first. He did not realize that the meteor cross had wrapped around the goon's leg when he snapped his arm down, and subsequently it pulled his leg from under him when Jesus Freak lifted his arm to block. Instantly, and even in the midst of battle, something inside of him acknowledges that it must have looked really cool to see that from the outside. With the thug down on the right, another 2 gangsters from the front come running up full of hostility. The thug on his left continues his aggressive attack with a flurry of punches that all seem to miss their target. He is obviously not a trained fighter of any sort. His last punch is caught by Jesus Freak and used to leverage weight. The next thing the young man knows, his legs are in the air and he is floating upside down. His flight is short-lived as he slams into one of his upcoming friends. Jesus Freak dashes to the empty space on his left in order to create a little space. This positions him more to the actual center of the room. It also gives him a little moving space away from the people that he has already taken down. That means he won't have to watch his footing as much. The gangster that is left standing quickly changes his trajectory to attempt to intercept Jesus Freak's new location, and with him, the rest in the room start to come forward. The pressure is on. Jesus Freak suddenly snaps into all his training. He starts to spin his meteor cross and twirls it in all directions, creating a sort of force field of defense around him. Though it is not impenetrable, it is enough to make those who approach slow down and time their attacks so as to not get hit by the metal ball of pain that rotates around him. The first one to approach him learns the hard way that he has to watch the speed and direction of the projectile. He lunges in just as the ball cycles around, and it smashes into the side of his head. Not only is he knocked aside by the force, but he is unconscious before he even hits the floor. The crowd surrounds him, each person anxiously looking for their opportunity to get in and put a stop to his movements. The movement of the ball seems random, from an outside perspective, as he wraps and releases its string from around various body parts, changing its direction and speed suddenly. They want so badly to just run in and take him down, but fear of ending up like their compatriot overrules their desire for destruction. Some internally attempt to time the ball's passing while others can be visibly seen rocking back and forth as if they are attempting to enter a double Dutch jump rope. At the same time, they must be ready for his next attack. The attack comes quickly. He uses momentum from his rotations and launches the meteor cross at a thug directly in front of him. The thug sees the attack and ducks frantically. Veer. Jesus Freak mumbles. The ball continues in a forward direction but moves about 10 inches to the right and smashes into his unsuspecting neighbor's face. Arg! He belts as he takes the hit. He goes to the floor holding his face. What the? That thing just changed directions in midair. One thug notes. I know. That's what I saw too. Another adds. The thug that was hit is on his knees, still holding his face. It hurts. It hurts so bad, man. His expressions of discomfort cause the others to get even more nervous. That oh no feeling in the pit of their stomach rises as they consider how much they do not want to be hit by that thing. However, being in the congregation of their peers, no one volunteers any information about how apprehensive they really are. No one wants to be called a coward. Suck it up and let's teach this punk a lesson. Someone yells from the background. As long as they come one at a time or keep their distance, Jesus Freak is confident that he can pick them off one by one until he is the last left standing. He hopes to keep them at bay until he can achieve this goal. After all, he only has one ball. Rush him! Someone yells. This is the exact type of thinking and instruction that Jesus Freak was hoping to avoid. If they do rush him, it is likely that his meteor cross will be useless, and he will have to depend on his hand-to-hand skills. With the number of guys still left, hand-to-hand is a very risky undertaking, and chances of victory are greatly dwindled. God, please don't let them listen to him. Jesus Freak thinks. He hesitates to strike another blow, for fear that it will leave him open to a rush attack, but so far, no one has attempted to rush in. It's the age-old problem where everyone wants the results but no one wants to be the first to take action. The one who originally pushed him into the door, thinking that he was one of Ronnie's practical jokes, is still positioned closest to the door. He, like the others, does not want to be the first to rush in, so he comes up with a better idea that won't make him look like a coward in the process. I'm going to go get the boss and the others. He yells to his companions. Keep him busy. The young man then turns to run back out of the door. Jesus Freak is keenly aware that the last thing he needs is more people to fight. For a moment, that information becomes the focus of his whole thought process, and he responds without thinking it through. He flings his right arm in the direction of the fleeing gangster, causing the meteor cross to fly over the gangster's right shoulder, barely missing his head as it passes by. Jesus Freak then mumbles. Stray. And with a snap of his wrist, the hammer changes direction straight to the left. Still in full stride, the gangster is unable to stop before running neck first into the line attached to the meteor cross. The pressure on the line makes the meteor cross wrap around his neck like a whip around a post. The line becomes taut and halts the gangster's progression, yanking him backward by the neck. In order to keep him from fleeing, Jesus Freak has to keep the line tight by constantly pulling the gangster toward him. Allowing the line to get loose would make it easy to unwrap the meteor cross. He begins to pull the line and wham! A sudden pressure to the left side of his face forces him off balance just a little. He realizes that he has been hit. But who could have penetrated his defenses? It quickly dawns on him that his defense is all but out of commission as it is wrapped around the neck of the thug across the room. Hand-to-hand is his only option now. Fortunately, the punch he took is not followed by a flurry but was more of a test punch to see if it could land, but now that it has landed, the enemy knows that he is vulnerable. There are too many people around him to keep track of them all. Another fist flies from the crowd but is awkward and easily avoided. He not only avoids it but manages to grab the arm before it is retracted. However, another hand comes out of the crowd and grabs his arm. Jesus Freak lets go of the arm he is holding and jerks his arm away from the grabber. The crowd is now pressed in upon him, and there is very little room for maneuvering. He can feel the press, as if it were walls of violent anger closing in all around him. Where will the next one come from? Will it be a grab, or will it be a punch or maybe a kick? Jesus Freak does not know, but the truth is that he barely has room to move. What shall I do? He thinks. Is this my end? Is it? God? He retreats into his own thoughts of how unfair it is to be following God and meet his death. He wonders what is the point of having him come to them just to die. While in deep thought, his body continues to move, protecting him from incoming blows. How long could he fend off blows until they do get in a sweet shot, the one shot that turns all the tides against him? A sting hits his elbow and his knee as well. Is it just a matter of time now? After all, he can't use his weapon anymore since it is tied around some goon's neck. The thought of it all seems so inescapably gloomy and destined for failure, but he is snapped out of his thoughts by a sharp pain in his forehead. Ow! Who punched me? He thinks. He comes to his senses and can feel the hair between his fingers as well as the flesh-covered bone of someone's skull between his hands. His forehead is pressed hard against the cranium he holds. Did I just headbutt this guy? He wonders. He takes a brief look around and notices that there are more guys on the ground than when he last took notice. Have I been fighting this whole time and winning just off of instinct? He feels himself let go of the head in his hands and use one arm to block up high. Oh wait. This is just like that day in the alley. My body is moving on its own. I'm in control this time, but it's like I am not giving the commands. His elbow slams into the mug of the one who tries unsuccessfully to punch him. I have been fighting with my elbows and knees to compensate for the lack of space. I am not that intuitive with my fighting. How am I doing this? As he takes them down one by one, the crowd seems less and less like an imposing wall and more like several hurdles that just need to be jumped. He looks over his right shoulder and sees that his meteor cross rope lies limp on the ground. The guy that it was attached to is nowhere to be found. He knows that this is not good. Using his thumb, he depresses the button on his cross handle that retracts the rope. He assesses his situation and sees that he is now facing 3 very apprehensive thugs. The rest are unconscious or otherwise out of commission. The 3 gangsters look around and become even more afraid to make the first move. They wonder how it came down to just them. At first, there was 12 of them. Just the thought of it sends chills through them, but they can't back down now. Their fellow gangsters would never let them live it down if they did not stand up to Jesus Freak. You're dead now, one says as he starts circling clockwise around Jesus Freak. Instinctively, the others follow suit, both stalling and looking for a good striking position. To live is Christ and to die is gain. Jesus Freak mumbles. He is still not entirely sure how he managed to triumph over the ones that he sees on the ground, but it brings him more confidence about handling these 3. He knows, however, that he needs to hurry before backup arrives. He charges straight at the guy that he finds in front of him and dodges the defensive punch that is thrown at him. He traps the arm between his shoulder and the grasp of his right arm. He then kicks his victim's right foot from underneath him, forcing him to the ground backward. The back of his head bounces up after making contact with the hard tile floor. This jarring of the brain causes an instant lapse of consciousness. The hit is so hard that Jesus Freak pauses just a moment to be sure that the man still breathes. He watches as a puff of air fills the man's chest, indicating that he still has primary survival functions intact. Poof! Is the sound as a foot finds its lodging and cradle of Jesus Freak's ribs. The hero rolls to the side from the force of the kick and continues the motion in order to quickly return to his feet. His quick recovery hides the fact that the kick not only took the wind out of him but reminded him that fighting hurts. This is no time to slump over holding his bruised ribs. A quick reassessment reveals that he is still facing two very real and energetic individuals. It further reveals that even though he is slightly injured now, his breathing and energy levels are still quite well to say that he has been fighting multiple opponents alone. Where did all this energy come from? The bad guys should have pressed their advantage, but it's too late now. He deploys his meteor cross quickly and starts his defense motion. With so many people down, this time he can mount a moving defense. From an outsider's perspective, it looks like a skillful show. Every inch of his body is used to control the ball through manipulation of its rope. He ducks and spins and jumps and thrusts while wrapping and releasing the rope from around various body parts. Each new motion causes a different reaction from the ball. While it can be beautiful to behold, it is everything but beautiful to those trying to predict its path and avoid the agony of a collision with it. They stand back looking for another chance to get at him, but this time he does not allow them to wait peacefully. Every so often and at random times, he causes the ball to fly in one of their directions but yanks it back before it can make contact. It's like the whip of a lion tamer, a warning of things to come if they get out of line. At the same time, it is a clever ploy to see what their reaction will be to the approach of the weapon and to make them a little more comfortable so that when the real strike comes, they won't be ready. Sure enough, they flinch when the ball comes at them, but one seems to react just a little slower than the other. He becomes the injured doe in the sight of the hungry lion. When hunting, a lion goes after whichever animal in the herd shows the least amount of athleticism, the easiest kill. With all his moving, it is hard and nearly impossible for them to know which one is being targeted for the next lunge. Jesus Freak, however, has a plan and a specific target. He loops and whirls as he zeroes in on his mark. Suddenly, he releases the line the direction of the doe of his choice. This time, he does not retract the ball before impact. It plunges deep into the solar plexus of his target with the same effect of a punch from a strong man. Instantly, the guy begins to double over on impact, neck out and arms stretched forward. Stray. Jesus Freak says while whipping the cord. The ball follows the command and changes its direction to an upward thrust. It strikes the thug a second time, but this time under the chin. It is the equivalent of a gut punch followed by an uppercut and is highly effective. Jesus Freak spins his whole body 360 degrees and whips the rope along with him. The weight of the ball carries the rope around the other would-be assailant, wrapping around his arms and body. Wait, 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 wait. He quickly blurts out, but it is too late. Jesus Freak yanks the rope, pulling him in rapidly and bringing him to a stop on his elbow. The looseness in the rope causes the rope to drop off him, and he crumbles to the floor. The last thug is defeated, and a breath of relief is deserved but interrupted by. That's him. That's the guy. The escaped gangster returns and is pointing in the direction of Jesus Freak. With him are four more relatively homogeneous-looking thugs and another one that clearly stands out. He is bigger than all the rest, and he has two short pole-like things, one on each hip. See Scrimma. It's even worse than when I left. The snitch proclaims while looking up at the larger thug. Jesus Freak can tell by the look of admiration and expectation on the guy's face that this is their boss. Did they call him Screamer? Jesus Freak wonders. No. They said Scrimma, but there's no doubt that he's the guy that I am after. They must call him Scrima because of the Eskrima sticks he uses as a weapon. He must be good since they named him for them. So you're the Jesus Freak, huh? The question rolls off his tongue without the least bit of intimidation. His voice is bass but is smooth. You can tell that he is a young man, no more than 25 years old. Would you care to enlighten me as to why you decided to commit suicide by the hands of that really bad gang, or more specifically by my hands? Jesus Freak does not answer. He stands, considering all things that are going on around him, wondering how he is going to get Scrimma out of the building. I guess he can't hear me through that mask thing. Either that or he is one rude guy. Is that how you Christians act? He says sarcastically. Suddenly, Jesus Freak fixes his gaze on Scrimma. He does not say a single word as he stares directly at him. In his mind, he makes the connection that the kid must have misunderstood and thought the name was Screamer. He wonders why he would be thinking of such a thing at this moment of confrontation. Time passes as he ponders all such questions. All the while, he is silent. This does not sit well with Scrimma. Are you trying to anger me? I was being nice. I've given you chance after chance to respond, but you choose to look me in the eye and ignore me. Scrimma growls in agitation. I will end you now. He grabs the Eskrima sticks from their holder in preparation for the beatdown he is about to issue. Suddenly, Jesus Freak speaks. Galatians 6 verse 9, and let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap, if we do not give up. What? What is that supposed to mean? Scrimma shrieks in confusion. You just love spouting off nonsense, don't you? Jesus Freak replies. You did well to remain patient, for it is a fruit of the Spirit, but now that you are abandoning your patience, you are moving closer to your own destruction. Now, I shall give you this opportunity to find salvation. It is completely your choice of how this goes down. You can repent and accept Christ as your Savior so that He may nullify your sins, saving your soul. You truly are nuts. The awe in Scrimma's voice expresses his feelings perfectly. And you truly are impatient. I was not yet finished. That was just the first part. Jesus Freak replies. Now with this salvation, you can willingly come with me and confess your sin before man and put your fate in the Lord's hands, for the Bible says that we must confess our sins one to another. Scrimma's face contorts as he listens in disbelief, and his head slightly tilts sideways. I know that there is some mental pain that comes with confessing that one is wrong, but it beats the physical pain that I will have to put you in if you refuse to do the right thing on your own. Jesus Freak finishes. With that statement, Scrimma has had all that he can take. No more. No more talk. Let's just get rid of him. I'm gonna teach you not to mess with that really bad gang. Get him! It is amazing how often the statement, get him, results in a violent intercession. This time is no different. The 5 underlings, including the messenger who went to get them, all rush in to try and subdue Jesus Freak. In an instant, Jesus Freak deploys his meteor cross and starts his defensive rotations. It stops them in their tracks. As soon as their momentum is halted, Jesus Freak lashes out at the one directly in front of him. It just so happens that he was the one who left to get the rest of them. The ball hits in the center of his forehead, and he is not awake to feel the impact of his body hitting the floor. In his head, Jesus Freak tries to keep track of the numbers while going directly back into his defense rotation. Scrimma looks on with interest at the battle, but the others are a little shaken by the quickness and ferocity of the attack. Come on guys, don't fade. He is only one man. As soon as you find an opportunity, take it. And someone get behind him. Scrimma instructs. Everyone is tense, and the ball just keeps circling. As instructed, one runs to get behind him. The one who digs a pit will fall into it. Jesus Freak mumbles. Then he lunges the ball straight forward again toward the thug that is now positioned in front of him. Seeing this, the gangsters all react. The one in front falls backward, trying to retreat from the incoming attack, and lands on his rear end. The ones on each side hesitate and flinch just slightly, not knowing exactly who the target will be. The guy positioned behind him immediately rushes in to tackle him from behind while he is vulnerable. However, it was a trap from the very beginning. The ball never reaches the guy in front of him, not because he falls backwards, but because Jesus Freak stops the motion short and uses the extension to pull the ball back with greater force. It is just like how people pull their fists back before throwing a punch forward to create greater force. The ball glides seamlessly past him and strikes the charging thug in the right shoulder. It makes the usual thud sound but is also accompanied by a popping noise. Ow! My shoulder! He yells as he falls to the ground wretched with pain. He attempts to grab at his shoulder with his left hand but finds that motion to be too painful, so he lies there looking up at the ceiling, screaming in pain. One quick glance at him and it is obvious that his shoulder is out of socket. This is unbearable. You gotta get me to a medic, man. Somebody, anybody, please. The screams add even more tension to the already explosive room. Scrimma calls one of his subordinates to him and at the same time he throws one of his Eskrima sticks at Jesus Freak. Jesus Freak is in the middle of his defense motions but is able to narrowly avoid a direct impact to his head. He watches as the stick flies to the back of the room and depends on his defense rotation to keep the villains at bay. He turns back toward his foes just as Scrimma finishes his talk with his minion and yells, "Go get him, Rock, and don't stop no matter what." In a flash, Jesus Freak launches a direct attack toward Rock to cut off his attack. Quickly, Rock ducks, and Scrimma steps in and swats the line with his other Eskrima stick. The ball carries the line round and round the pole and comes to a stop. Scrimma makes a twisting and rotating motion with his Scrimma stick, locking it all in place. He hands the whole thing to Rock and tells him not to let it get free no matter what. Rock begins to pull at it in an attempt to immobilize Jesus Freak. Jesus Freak sees the situation and lets the cross go. There are two thugs who were just waiting to get at him and now Scrimma making his way into the fray. The other guy is busy because he is tasked with keeping Jesus Freak's weapon occupied. To pull off a move like he did and tie up Jesus Freak's meteor cross means that he probably has good fighting skills and strategy. He is obviously physically strong. Just looking at the cut of the muscle on his body reveals that fact. This is no time to hesitate on the next move. Jesus Freak charges the man on his far right and farthest away from the incoming Scrimma. He will try to weed out the ones who are weaker before engaging the boss. He was ready to charge Jesus Freak, but he was not prepared for Jesus Freak to charge him. Jesus Freak pulls back his right arm in preparation to throw a punch to his face. The move is so telegraphed that the thug has time to get his guard up to block before the punch is even thrown. Perfect. Jesus Freak thinks. He jumps slightly off the ground and thrusts his knee into the man's belly. The guards that were put up to protect his face quickly fall as his midsection bears the force of the incoming knee. That is a costly mistake. Jesus Freak follows through with the punch that initiated it all, and it falls directly on his cheek. The force of the blow staggers him so much that he stumbles to the floor. Meanwhile, the gangster holding the Eskrima stick with meteor cross attached begins to reel the weapon in, away from Jesus Freak. Scrimma closes in on his foe at the same time as ordering his other unoccupied underling to attack. Jesus Freak continues his pursuit to fight Scrimma last and closes in on the underling. No time to come up with an exact plan, instead, he just wings it, hoping to take the guy down before Scrimma can catch up. Seeing Jesus Freak charge, the young man quickly puts up his guard. God, I need a way to take him down quickly. Jesus Freak prays in his mind as he approaches. He suddenly notices that the left guard of the thug is too low to protect him from a high attack. If I fake low but go high, he will lower his guard even more and take the full force of my high attack. If that knocks him flat, I can turn all my attention to Scrimma. He thinks. His legs swiftly pass one another, propelling him toward his target. He reaches faking range and lifts his right leg, but only high enough to indicate a midsection strike at best. Just as he predicts, the left arm drops even more to protect his lower half. I got him. Jesus Freak thinks. He puts all his might into changing the trajectory of the kick upward toward his target's head. The kick closes in too fast for the thug to change his defense back. Jesus Freak stiffens the muscles in his foot in preparation for impact, but the target suddenly moves 2 or 3 feet back. How could he move that fast? No, wait, why aren't his legs moving? And why can't I catch my balance? It's not him, it's me. Jesus Freak realizes. This realization brings with it cognizance of what he is feeling. There's a tugging originating from his collar area, drawing him backward with force. He can even feel the balled-up fist that clenches his collar, pressing into the back base of his neck. The force keeps him off balance, but he desperately tries to get his balance anyway. Hopping backward on one foot finally gives way to sitting on the ground and trying not to fall all the way on his back. How did he catch me so fast? I just knew I had the upper hand. There is no way that I should not have reached that guy before he reached me. Jesus Freak ponders. That was close. You almost took his head off. Is that very Christian-like? Good thing I stopped you, huh? If you would have killed him, God would have to send you to hell. So it's kind of like I am your savior. Scrima says sarcastically. Many will come in my name, claiming, I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. Jesus Freak replies while looking up at his attacker from the floor. What strength it must have taken to stop him in full charge, with one arm, and send him stumbling into the other direction with such great force. This one is strong and fast, and he knows it. Jesus Freak rushes to his feet to take a defensive stance. He doesn't want to be caught off guard by the next advance. God, for a second there, I thought you had provided me an opening. Oh well. Guess I'll try again. Jesus Freak says in his head. He never realizes that he has been thrown right in front of the thug who now has possession of his meteor cross. With his back to him, he does not see him preparing to attack. The thug takes the opportunity to stealthily try and kill Jesus Freak with his own weapon. He spins it around a few times to get a feel for it, and then, when he thinks the timing is right, he launches the tip forward with a swinging motion. He hopes to hit Jesus Freak right on top of the head and crack his skull. The hammer starts to go forward but does not reach its target because he does not give it enough rope. All the intensity of the attempt hurls the ball back around in his own direction. In his inexperience, he puts up an arm to block. The rope uses his arm as a wrapping post and winds around it until the ball comes to a rest on the back of his head. He falls face forward just behind Jesus Freak. The clunk of the ball hitting his head and the thud of his body hitting the ground are Jesus Freak's first indications that the guy was behind him. And what a surprise it is, but one quick look reveals that he is out cold. While he wonders what happened, it is easier for him to just thank God and move his focus to the two that are left standing in front of him. Scrima cracks a smile and releases a puff of air that is just short of a laugh. No, it's more like a severely stifled giggle. His attitude is very cavalier. He looks at his fallen crony and fights with everything in him to keep himself from erupting with laughter at how he has taken his own self out. Finally, he can't take it anymore, and he turns to his other boy and laughs. Did you see that? I can't wait till the others get back. I'm gonna tell this story till it can't be told anymore. Scrima laughs as he talks. Wow! Now that needs to be on the internet. I wish we were filming. Dang fool! Took me clean out of the fight. Where was I? Oh yeah. Stringing this guy up so the boys can have fun when they recover. He turns to face Jesus Freak. I'll give you some choices too then. You see how strong and fast I am. I will allow you to surrender to me so I can tie you up unharmed. Then I will hold you till everyone else comes around and let them do to you what they think is fair for what you did to them. Or, I could pound you into submission and then tie you up so the others can have their way with you. It's your choice. Either way, we both know that you will never beat me. Jesus Freak doesn't hesitate. I can do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens me. He considers attempting to retrieve his weapon, but the truth is that with it wrapped as it is, it would take too long to retrieve. Dashing forward, he aims at Scrima to put him on the defense but slides low and to the right. This time, he reaches his target and sweeps his legs from under him. Scrima quickly turns to see what has transpired. Jesus Freak jumps swiftly on top of his adversary and tries to administer the finishing blow, but once again, he is knocked away from him, but this time by a kick to the ribs. It hurts so bad. He slides so far and continues to slide until he takes control of the momentum and rolls to his feet. This is normally an easy task, But this time, a pain shoots from his ribs to his shoulders and lingers even though he is up on his feet. Scrimma helps his partner up and lets him know that he has saved him twice now. His laid-back laughter and failure to take the fight serious is very discomforting to Jesus Freak, who is in pain even as he stands there breathing. He sucks up the pain and charges again. "You got a lot of energy, I see. But you don't learn," Scrimma says while throwing a punch at Jesus Freak. As quick as the punch is, Jesus Freak is able to duck it and make contact with his intended target. "Not again. Let me go. What did I ever do to you?" the guy pleads. Scrimma turns abruptly and clasps Jesus Freak by the collar again to rip him away from his henchman. He pulls like last time, but this time, it takes even more strength. Jesus Freak has latched both hands tight onto the upper jacket, right at about the shoulders, of the henchman. The two are being pulled back by the power of Scrimma's arm muscle. The henchman can counter, but he is too freaked out to think clearly. His mind is dominated by, "Why me?" Jesus Freak launches a mighty series of headbutt strikes to the henchman's cranium before kicking him backward and releasing his grip. It sends the henchman flying into the background and lightens the load on Scrimma's arm. The force yanks Jesus Freak back like a bungee cord. Somehow, the natural flow of his body makes him twist under the arm to the backside of Scrimma, where he finds himself in the perfect position to try an arm lock. Jesus Freak thrusts up with all his might just to get the muscular arm to move up behind his foe's back. Unfortunately, his foe is well aware of the position he is in and starts walking forward to help him pull away. Jesus Freak is relentless and won't let go. He stays up on him with every step. There are points where it seems like the arm is about to be free, but then the pressure is put right back on it. If the arm can be driven high enough, Scrimma will have no choice but to give up from the pain or have his arm broken. Walking forward helps Scrimma loosen the leverage and try to get the arm free, but he finds himself face to face with the wall. "Get off of me," he demands. He reaches awkwardly across his chest and around his shoulder with his left hand. He is able to grab a fistful of Jesus Freak's clothes. With all his strength, he rips Jesus Freak off him and slams him back first into the wall. Fully intending to crush Jesus Freak into the wall with the arm that he just freed, Scrimma shifts his weight into his right shoulder and throws one of the strongest punches he has ever attempted right into the face of Jesus Freak. It would have landed too, but for some reason, the arm never came forward to deliver the punch. Was his arm broken from the strain? "What did you do to my arm?" he asks. He turns his head to take a look at his arm. It is difficult to see behind himself, but his view reaches just far enough for him to learn that his arm has been tied with a quick tie cuff to his belt. Jesus Freak quickly grabs Scrimma's lapels and uses his own back as a brace against the wall to stiffen his arms and keep Scrimma from pressing in or pulling him in any closer. Scrimma yells, "Fool! I can still crush you with my left hand." With that, he lets go of Jesus Freak and pulls back for a monstrous punch. He leans his body weight slightly in to put force behind his strike, but this is a mistake. Jesus Freak quickly switches from pushing to pulling as he squeezes out of the way and slams Scrimma face first into the wall. With no arms to protect him, he takes the full force of the collision. It's enough to knock him dizzy, but it is the follow-up double punch kick combo that lays him out. Jesus Freak quickly restrains him as best he can, then walks across the room and gathers his meteor cross. He turns back to go collect his target. "No, don't do it. Don't you see, it's not right?" Jesus Freak mumbles in his low voice. Across the room stands Jacob. He looms over Scrimma with one of the Eskrima sticks tightly grasped. He holds it like a knife, ready to be plunged deeply into his brother's assassin. Matthew 26, "He who lives by the sword will die by the sword." "You don't want to do this," Jesus Freak exclaims. Jacob's eyes well up with tears. Whether they be tears of sorrow, anger, or hatred cannot be easily distinguished. His hand trembles, and his mind is full of every time that he thought about what he would do if he ever got this opportunity. "Yes, I do. I must. I have to, okay? My brother." Jesus Freak cuts him off. Your brother is dead, and his killer is about to be brought to justice. He would not be happy knowing that you have become the very badness that he once fought against. The kid shakes his head as if to shrug off the information that he just received.
No. You just don't understand, okay? If you did, you would have killed him yourself. I'm sure God wants him dead, okay? He's evil, you hear? He's evil.
You have it all wrong. Jesus Freak scorns. I am evil. You are evil. This entire world is evil. But none of that matters now. Now we have the opportunity to be saved. We were bought with a price, and it was a very heavy price. It cost Christ his life. Not only so, he was also tortured for our sakes. He pauses to give the kid a chance to hear. That's right. He did all of that for the sake of the evil. You assume that he hates the evil, but it is not so. He does hate evil itself, but everyone he has ever chosen came from evil, so the evil are the same people that he loves. If he did not, then he would have to get rid of both you and me. He is no respecter of persons, and if you have ever lied or stolen or desired something that belonged to someone else, you are no better than he that has murdered. As is the case with Scrimma. Don't you get it? No! I don't, okay? I don't get it at all. Okay? Jacob screams back. You are focused on this vessel, this person, this meat sack as your enemy, but it is clear to me that we war not against flesh and blood but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. When you see things in such a light, you come to the conclusion that this person has value to God. That's not all. You also see clearly that this person could very well become your partner in the war against evil. God does not hate him. And who are you to judge him?
I would never want to work with him on anything, okay? I don't care.
Jacob whines. Jesus Freak cuts him off once more. Well, if you don't care about the kingdom, then think about this. His death will not satisfy you. You will be eaten alive by your own hatred of him long after he is gone if you don't take this opportunity to forgive him. To top that off, God says that it is his job to get vengeance and not yours. If you do this, then you will certainly be the one who God will have to take vengeance on. You trusted me and God to take care of this situation. Look at the odds that were against me. God caused me to prevail, and justice is about to be served. Think about it. If this guy, hidden in his fortress, could not hide from God's wrath, then what chance do you think you have? It is best, my little friend, that you leave this situation to him. I have no more to say to you. The choice is yours. Jesus Freak readies his meteor cross just in case, but he patiently waits for the boy to make his decision. Still shaking, the boy stares at Scrimma. What decision will he make, and will Jesus Freak be able to stop him if it is the wrong choice?
Why? Why can't I just do it? It's not fair, okay? You get to beat them up. Why can't I just get my revenge?
He says as he moves his gaze toward Jesus Freak. He waits, but no answer comes. Jesus Freak just looks on. The kid takes a deep breath and then drops the weapon.
You're not worth it, you big dummy head, okay?
With that, the decision is made. Jesus Freak and Jacob quickly gather their things and their prize. With everyone down, they are able to go right down and out of the front door. They don't stop for a moment until they get to the D-line, and when they are a few minutes out, they call the police to let them know to be waiting. The kid hands Scrimma over to the police while Jesus Freak watches from a short distance. The police tell the kid that they have all kinds of charges and warrants on Scrimma but have not been able to get to him. When they ask how the kid managed it, he tells them how Jesus Freak went in and got him. They give the kid a reward and tell him to go home, then they drive off with their new prisoner in tow. The kid returns to Jesus Freak to tell him all that had been said. He even tells him that Scrimma revealed to him that the only reason they were able to make it in or out alive is because most of the gang was not there. Well, the police now have their man. The courts will decide his fate. It's all in God's hands. How do you feel? Jesus inquires.
I think I understand, but I still kind of think I would rather do it myself, okay?
Jacob says in a slightly sullen voice. His mind suddenly shifts, and his countenance is lifted. But hey, I want you to know that any time you need something in the lawless zone, I am here for you, okay? Or whatever you might need. They exchange pleasantries and contact info and go their separate ways.